Not many people know why Garrett County's public library is named the Ruth Enlow Library. There is a story behind this name, and there are people who belong to this story. We hope that through the words of her father, Mr. E. Enlow, and this photo story, you will get to know Ruth Enlow and why her name graces Garrett County's public library. Mr. and Mrs. E. Enlow were both born and raised in Garrett County, Maryland. After marriage, and due to Mr. Enlow's health issues, they chose to relocate to San Francisco, California. However, the E. Enlow family will forever remain a part of Garrett County through not only the family ties, but also through Mr. Enlow's generous contribution of money to help build a public library in memory of his daughter.
To Mr. F. E. Rathbun, County Superintendent, July 10, 1946. When Captain Hoy made me a very pleasant visit, I mentioned to him that I expected to write to you if I could commemorate the lives of my lamented wife, Harriet B.G. Enlow, and my cherished daughter, Ruth Christine Enlow, by causing to be erected in Oakland a small, neat, and suitable brick building for housing your town's library of books. Ruth was born on April 11, 1897 in San Francisco, California. Our cherished daughter was the pride of our lives and a source of great pleasure. We did not care to send her to school too soon. We wanted her to have plenty of playtime. We bought her a nice little desk and a blackboard and placed them in our dining room on a level with our lawn extending to the sidewalk on California Street. Here, I taught her to read. Our home being destroyed by the Great Fire and Earthquake of 1906, Ruth and her mother now went east for more than 1 year. While still in the east, Ruth wrote me a letter, requesting me to send her a third reader. I still hold and cherish the little letter she wrote while living with her Aunt Sarah near Oakland, Maryland. My wife and daughter lived a year with my sister-in-law, Mrs. Sarah Beachy Ashby, and they liked Oakland very much. I, too, have a fond recollection of the season I spent there, just before my second return to California in 1889. When a mere child, she and her cousin were caught in a rainstorm and hurricane in Oakland. This experience inspired her in her early school days to put it in verse. Here is a copy of Ruth's effort to write poetry about Oakland, Maryland.
Sweet Oakland, fairest village of the mountain, where the streamlets flow like silver fountains, and the haze of Indian summer days always linger o'er your ways. Close by the Allegheny side, the stream reflects the movement of the tide, while the trees on yonder tower hill seem to ever murmur to that rill. One summer's day in the month of June, in this quiet village all in tune, a terrible crash in the distance was heard, and no one was able to utter a word. Everyone thought the end had come, but soon the work of destruction was done. On came the waters rushing down, flowing directly through the town. And all the people in their fright waded the water with all their might. The trees, the monarchs of the hill, with leaves stripped off, are lying still.
After returning to California, Ruth attended the Denman Grammar School, Lowell High School, and the University of California, receiving her Bachelor of Arts academic degree.
Ruth and her mother were the most beautiful examples of boon companions I ever saw. Ruth, after her graduation, could teach, but for one to receive permanent appointment in the San Francisco schools, experience elsewhere was required. She would not leave her mother and go to the country or some town to get 2 years' experience. She qualified for civil service employment in San Francisco and became a librarian. Her promotion was steady and sure, till at last she became the head librarian in the Richmond branch, which is the largest branch library in San Francisco. But of all the branch libraries in which Ruth was in charge, she liked best the McCreary branch. This was a private library which was presented to the city. We were happy and had become comfortably located after having been burned out twice. But Harriet's health was then giving us much anxiety. She had not the best health for a long time, and had been under her doctor's care, but now she was surely failing. Ruth learned to drive an automobile, and we took Harriet on auto rides through the 1,500-acre Presidio, the Golden Gate Park, and south over the Seashore Boulevard to the Fleischaker Pool, and nearby to a fine eating place to have a chicken dinner, Southern style. Harriet enjoyed these rides, but they did not restore her health. With Harriet's hand in mine, Ruth, the nurse, the doctor, and myself watched her grow weaker and weaker, till 3:30 a.m. on February 27, 1930, she drew her last fleeting breath, and the spirit of a noble woman took its flight to the realms of the redeemed. Ruth and I, now grief-stricken, had a heart-to-heart talk. The time when I must retire and take a small pension was near, but Ruth, loving her work, did not want to resign from a desirable and well-earned position and retire with me to my property in this small city. But when her vacation periods came, Ruth, her dear Aunt Anna, her faithful nurse, and I were in the habit of coming to my hilltop home here in Sebastopol, in the heart of the Gravenstein Apple Belt. Yet Ruth, after a good rest and returning to her library, which she loved so well, could not help sorrowing for her mother. And after her Aunt Anna went east to live, her sorrow and loneliness now being great, her health began to show signs of a breakdown. She placed herself under the care of her mother's physician, but she would not resign her position, and went on with her work. One night, she told me she had been near a breakdown, and seeing me in the library, she revived. Though she had some 8 or 10 young men and women under her, only one at a time went out to lunch or dinner. This explained more fully her desire for me to be with her and dine with her in her sorrow and failing health. I shall never regret that my dining with her and browsing around among the books brought to her a feeling of satisfaction. 8 or 10 physicians in hospitals, sanatoriums, and private practice prescribed for Ruth, but none of them restored her health. She seemed to know that none of them could do her any good, and told them so to their regret, that they had not the necessary skill or knowledge. So, on the night of February 6, 1936, the spirit of Ruth, the pride of my life, took its flight to be with her dear mother, in that heavenly home prepared for the redeemed.
All told, Mr. Enlow contributed $35,000 to the building of the Ruth Enlow Library of Garrett County. At the age of 92, Mr. Enlow wrote the following words of gratitude and support to be read in his absence at the new library's dedication ceremony held on Monday, December 11, 1950.
May this library ever be a shrine to which you may often repair for a peaceful and profitable hour, and to see the eagerness with which both young and old read the worthwhile books and magazines, and giving evidence that they appreciate this institution which has come to their homes as a head source of information. I trust a goodly number of you can appreciate my efforts to make this building possible for Oakland and my native county, and at the same time show my lasting love for my noble wife, Harriet Beachy Enlow, and my cherished daughter, Ruth Christine Enlow. Even though I may never be permitted the pleasure of seeing your library and enjoying its satisfying benefits, your faraway friend, E. Enlow.
Mr. Enlow was unable to make it back to Garrett County to see for himself the fruits of his generous donations and the commemoration to his beloved daughter, Ruth.